Hello and welcome back to the port. I'm the Gaff Major, and this is a review of the American Tier 7 Premium Battleship USS Missouri, available for 30,000 steel. This is obviously a Tier 7 and Tier 6 game, actually, of Domination and Crushing on the enemy team of Shashio, Algeria, Belfast, Helena, Prince Eugen, North Carolina, Odin, Georgia. So an interesting mix on the enemy team. So USS Missouri, history-wise, not too much to really add, although some important events, I guess you could say, regarding World War II. She was commissioned in June 1944, and she joined the Pacific Fleet in January 1945. While serving with the Pacific Fleet, she escorted and did operations regarding Iwo, Okinawa, and Tokyo and mainland Japan. She did survive a kamikaze attack, which is quite interesting, and furthermore, she's very historically important, I guess you say, as she was the vessel on which the final unconditional surrender was signed by the Japanese government. And she is preserved to this day in Pearl Harbor, I believe, only a short distance away from the Arizona. So the ship on which the Pacific War ended is not too far from one of the first casualties, the USS Arizona, of the Pacific War for the Americans. So, she is an Iowa class, and so therefore there are a lot of similarities with the Iowa. Where there are sufficient differences, I will be mentioning what those differences are. So, in comparison to the Tech Tree Tier 7 battleships, what are we looking at? Well, survivability, we have the third lowest base HP of 65,000, which is 5,000 less than the Iowa. When it comes to her HP pool, which is basically the amount of HP she has with her base HP plus repair parties, you are looking at the third lowest HP pool of 92,216, which is 7,100 less than the Iowa. You have the joint second lowest torpedo reduction of 25%, and when it comes to the armour scheme, it's always best to go back to port and take a look at the armour viewer there. So, back in the port, taking a look at the armour scheme of the Missouri. Let's start off with the superstructure. It is your typical 90mm plating all over, apart from the obvious Citadel parts as well, as per the official naming. Whether or not that is the Citadel when it comes to the gameplay is always another question. But yeah, it's a typical area to be harvestable by HE and AP, and like the Iowa, there's a lot of HP designated to this area, so it does mean that you are quite farmable and will suffer from HE spam and light AP spam, I guess you could say. Moving on to the bow and the stern, this is covered in 32mm plating, which basically means that it's only really a Yamato which can punch through at the moment, potentially good for battle tanking everything but a Yamato, I guess you could say. So overall, that's pretty decent, I guess you could really say. Going on to the upper armoured belt. Well, first of all, let's just take away the torpedo bulge, and we'll come back to that. There's a reason why. So the upper armoured belt, you have a deck thickness of 38mm, which is perfectly acceptable for ricocheting any AP shell if angled. You have a lower internal armoured belt, I guess you could say, of 307mm. You can see it's like kind of tucked in, and if I quickly turn the torpedo bulge back on, you can see that it's just kind of tucked in there. So that's your main armoured belt, I guess you could say, and so that's pretty reasonable as well, capable of ricocheting any AP. And then you have an upper armoured belt of 38mm as well. So overall, that upper armoured casement armour, I guess you say, is what's going to be dealing the largest amount of your survivability. Going on to the turrets and the barbettes, usual typical case of very thick armour all over, which is allowing you to obviously have quite survivable turrets. Just means it's down to RNG whether they get incapacitated or knocked out. Citadel, it is below the waterline, or just at the waterline, I guess you can say. Quite thinly plated on the top, however, you have got to remember that casement armour is all on top of that, so it probably does have quite a hefty additional amount of armour there. Nose plating on it is quite acceptable as well. You're in the red there, 297mm potentially. Yep, and then on the rear as well. The rear's a bit more exposed, I guess you could say. So maybe kiting away from Yamato could be potentially painful. So everything I've discussed there is exactly the same as the Iowa. So what is the big difference? The big difference is this torpedo bulge. The torpedo bulge, especially the part above the waterline, which would be exposed to incoming shells, is 38mm thick on the Missouri, which means that she is capable of ricocheting practically any AP shell from her lower armoured bout. However, we can take a quick look at the Iowa for comparison. You will be able to see when she loads in that upper armoured bout, or lower armoured bout I should really say, is 25mm thick, which is only capable of ricocheting 14-inch AP. So with the Iowa, you probably want to be going nose in, although you have got to remember you have got that really thick casement armour behind that, so it just means that AP shells can penetrate the side of a Iowa if they're 15-inch guns or more, and detonate inside the torpedo bulge if they don't ricochet back out, whereas on the Missouri the AP shells shouldn't be bouncing in there and should be bouncing off the outer armour. So that's the interesting difference between the Missouri and the Iowa when it comes to the arm scheme. So let's go back to the game. Well, welcome back. It's time to take a look at the artillery. Well, she's got 9 16-inch guns mounted in 3 triple gun turrets. We have A turret, B turret superfiring up front, and then we have a Y turret at the rear. Now, these do have the third longest range of 17.4 kilometers. However, this is 300 meters less than the Iowa. She has an average reload time of 30 seconds and the joint second slowest turret reverse speed of 45 seconds per 180 degrees of rotation. When it comes to the shell quantities, she has the joint third highest HE shell damage of 5,700 per shell and an average fire chance of 36%. She also has the highest AP shell damage of 13,500, which is 400 more than the Iowa. Now, when it comes to the DPMs, she has an above average HE DPM, she has an average fires per minute, and she also has a highest AP DPM thanks to that AP damage. Manoeuvrability, you're looking at an average speed of 30 knots, second largest turn circle 920 meters, along with the second slowest rudder shift of 19.4 seconds, which is 0.1 seconds quicker than the Iowa. Are we going to be able to finally finish this Prince Wagon? Yes, we are. Considering that this flank is being focused by the enemy team, I doubt that we'll be able to do too much, but we're going to endeavour our best. Concealment wise, she has an above average detection by sea, which is 15.4 kilometers, also an above average detection from the air of 12.3 kilometers. She also has the second largest detection when firing in smoke, which is 14.9 kilometers. Ironically, this is 0.1 more than the Iowa. However, that could just be maybe my stats are just a little bit wrong on that one. It seemed a bit odd. When it comes to the consumables, she's got 3 repair parties. These will heal 324 HP per second for 28 seconds and has a 80-second reload. Now this is basically just due to the reduction in the overall amount of HP that the Missouri has in comparison to the Iowa. Therefore it does mean that these repair parties do slightly less than, say, the Iowa. When it comes to the damage control party, it is your typical American damage control party for your battleships, with a 20-second duration and a 80-second reload. Now it's onto that marvellous consumables that you are seeing down there. So you can have radar. This has a range of 9.5 kilometers and a duration of 35 seconds with a 180-second reload, and you do get 2 of those base. However, you can swap those out for enhanced secondary targeting, which you will get free of instead. What the enhanced secondary targeting does is not really that different to all the other battleships, so I'm not really going to go into much depth on that. As always, down in the description will be the commander build and the modules taken, although they may not be particularly favourable. I'm not exactly an American battleship player, I'm going to have to be completely honest with you on that one. However, regarding the modules taken, I've taken AA Guns Module 2, Propulsion Module 2, Target Acquisition Systems Module 1, and Artillery Plotting Room Module 2. Now, regarding the AA, I think it's worth just touching on. The AA capability of the Missouri is pretty much on par with the Iowa. Now, the differences are that the Missouri does have 6 less barrels of 20mm, however she does have 4 more barrels of 40mm, so those differences are incredibly negligible. Now, with the North Carolina closing into this kind of distance, I'm now hoping that I can start backing off, so trying to deny the ram a little bit here and punch through the nose of the North Carolina, being the North Carolina is a tier 6. Of course, as we close into these kind of distances, it does mean my turrets become a little bit exposed to the typical RNG. And yeah, suffering from a bit of RNG there. Well, that's the review all wrapped up, so it's time to crack on with playing the game. I guess it's worth mentioning that as per every tier 7 premium, she does come with a type 9 permanent camouflage, which obviously will reduce your detection from sea and also from the air. Oh god, I've got a Belfast to tickle after this. Maybe we can get away with it, I don't know. Considering North Carolina can do 23 knots forwards, and we're doing nearly 19.7 backwards, it should slow this down enough to maybe allow us to get the finishing blow. So, is the Missouri worth 30,000 steel? My honest opinion is probably not. As a historically interesting ship, okay, maybe you can justify her. As a collectible ship, again, potentially could be quite interesting. But really, how much difference she offers you from an Iowa is going to be interesting. I don't really play the Iowa much, so I can't really comment on play style differences. I mean, she does seem to be a generally reasonable ship, but then I guess you could say that about the Iowa as well. We have lost B turret, however we might be able to get away without it. So yeah, my opinion is she's probably not worth the 30,000 still. I think considering the rate at which you earn steel and stuff, I think an acceptable price tag would have been about 20,000. However, they are making adjustments to the rate of the income of steel, so whether that might change my opinion in the future, I don't know. But personally, I will be quite tempted to hold off for now and see if I can earn enough steel for potentially another future ship. Now the question is, was the Belfast within radar range? I didn't recall the very last range. Let's see, 14.7 is my detectability. I think I'm going to have to get a bit closer. I mean, if I try and judge it with my guns, let's say an 8.6, 9.6, so I can't really risk it, I don't think. We'll have to close in. And then we might have to see if we can then kick it out broadside and then see if we can get 2 turrets on board. However, Haven't got a lot of HP, and the Belfast should be more than capable of whittling me down. Right, I'm going to try and kick it out broadside now. And then, once we're happy, I'm going to go a bit broader. There we go. Turn on the radar. And hope. Looks like we will be able to get a second volley within the radar time, which I guess is favourable at least. Does mean that the radar is potentially more useful than this Stalingrad's radar.
The ship is on fire.
Gonna put the fire out. It's got a 20-second duration, so that will give us immunity from fire for 20 seconds. Whether that'll be enough to allow us to get one more volley away on the Belfast is going to be hard to say. She is chunking away at our superstructure. He's right up against an iron, which always makes targeting a little bit awkward, especially because of the way that irons sometimes interact with the aiming reticle. And she's down to a sliver of health. Thankfully at the moment it looks like my superstructure is completely saturated, so he's not getting much damage out of me with HE. If he was a slightly more aware player, he might consider switching to AP, but we're going to get the volley away. That should be enough to mop him up, and that's going to be a trade, but it's down to the rest of the team. So we'll have to see how this goes. Let's see, we jump on board with the Shores, who is point blank with an enemy Ashashio, and that's the game. Very nice and cozy. So I'd say reasonable game in the Missouri. I'm not a Battleship player, I will confess, and I'm especially not a Tier 7 Battleship player. I'm definitely not an American Battleship player. You can watch my other reviews to confirm that. However, walking away with 136,000 damage with 65 hits on target, getting 3 kills, surprisingly. No citadels, but I'm getting high caliber on that, and 1 fire thanks to the 18 secondary hits on target. Coming top of the team, okay. Personally, I don't feel like I deserve that, but it is what it is, so I can't really complain then. Walking away with a profit of 269,000 credits. That is with a premium count and a rare credit booster, which does improve my earning potential by 20%. I always recommend taking a credit booster if you're playing Tier 7, and would recommend a premium count as well, just to try and ensure that you do earn credits. The premium count, not completely necessary if you do have rare credit boosters that you can use. So overall, I guess I can't complain, even though I don't feel amazed by that game. If you did enjoy it, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you enjoy this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. Down in the description is the commander build and the modules, along with email address to the channel if you want to send in any of your own game captures for the community spotlight video, and the link to Patreon if you want to support the channel on Patreon, as it is a non-monetized channel. I'd like to say thank you to all the patrons, to all the subscribers. Patrons, your names will be appearing on the end screen, as it is a premium ship. And until next time, I'm the Galloping Major, and back to the port.
Hey, hey, clear the way, here comes the Galloping Major. Bumpity, 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 bump. Get out of the way there, you fellows, unless you want me to run you down.